Welcome to ThoughtCast, our podcast series where we connect with inspiring leaders to uncover what is shaping the world of work. We'll discuss the ways leaders can navigate through the change as commercial real estate and workspaces undergoes paradigm shifts. On today's episode of ThoughtCast, I'm extremely to discuss the topic CRE Tailwinds to watch out in 2022 with our esteemed guest Shubhankar Dongre. As Steve Jobs has said, if you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. The same goes true for our guest speaker today, Shubhankar Dongre. It was Shubhankar's vision and commitment to bring the much sought after transparency to Indian real estate that led him to start India's leading real estate, data, and workflow solutions platform, Propstack. Shubhankar is also the co founder of Zapkey. Prior to this, he was the director at Aperon Realty Solutions, and he has also worked across multiple organizations like JLL, Deutsche Bank, and Fractal Analytics. He is an alumnus of ISB and also studied civil engineering and law. Welcome, Shubhankar. Thanks for joining us. We're delighted to have you here today for an enriching session.
My pleasure, Sumit. Thanks for having me as well. I'm as excited as you are to be on this show.
Great. So let's dive straight into the discussion now. Shubhankar, tell us about your experience building PropStack and Zapkey.
Sure. So look, part of the really nice introduction that you just made for me, I think, there's a lot of information right there. So I began my career with Fractal Analytics, which is today, one of the leading data companies in the world, born out of India. I think I believe it recently also turned unicorn. So, big congrats to them. And I was part of their, early days. So I wouldn't call it founding team, but when the team was really small, obviously today, I believe they have hundreds and thousands of employees. And that's the scale they've grown to. But that was my introduction. That was my tryst with data, straight out of college. Data back then was fairly nascent as an industry. Across I'm not specifically talking about real estate, across absolutely anything,
Yeah.
use of quality information, use of quality data, pulling insights and actually going and committing business actionables based on that inference and insight that you get from data was a fairly new practice, especially in India, in the early 2000s. But that really, was very, very fascinating for me. And I consider myself fortunate to have got the opportunity to start off my career with a data firm. So, I was, with Fractal and Deutsche Bank, basically doing data analytics, whether it's marketing related or, risk prediction. And, right from there, I went to ISB, and that's where I was introduced to real estate as well. I think real estate around that time, 2007, was not only hitting its peaks in India for, very specifically in commercial real estate, but unfortunately 6 to 9 months down the line, there was a global explosion with Nomura, and everything turned to dust basically. But I had committed myself to property. Real estate was very fascinating for me as well. So I, joined up with JLL right out of ISB in the capital markets division, and I was with JLL for almost 4 years after that. But along the way, I always felt this desire, this need, this little emptiness, this little space that, real estate produces so much data, so much usable information, and I was not seeing the justice done to so much information around. And I really felt there was a gap in the market where somebody could come in, pull that information together, make it usable, create a platform, and easily deliver it to all stakeholders, investors, lenders, landlords, different kinds of landlords today, such as yourselves. Business can become so much more efficient. I saw it. I saw the effectiveness of that during my Fractal days. And I really thought to myself that, somebody's got to do it in real estate. The other astonishing part was, contrary to what, the world thinks about, say, Indian property or general Indian business practices, India is actually a very, very transparent market when it comes to information, when it comes to publicly available information made public by the government. So basically, every time we do a transaction, whether it's an entity level, a corporate level transaction, whether it's an individual transaction, you have to sign an agreement and you have to go and register it with the government so that it becomes a legally admissible document, right? That's the registration process. As soon as that happens, it becomes a public domain document, which basically means you and I can literally go to the appropriate registration office and request anybody's document under a certain process. And once we found that out, we were delighted. We said, there could be no better source of information for real estate than registration data. So we did a national tour, went and found out different processes and procedures required, because it's a state subject. It's not a central subject. So you have to follow what the process is in every state to procure this information. And once we were able to understand that process, we built a tech stack. When Propstack was founded in 2012-13, we built a tech stack to pull this information in volumes, put it through a QC process, and then make it available in a very usable format, because we were all part of the industry. So we knew what data is required for what use case. So we completely digitized that experience and made it available to all stakeholders. And Propstack is a B2B company. So at that point, it was purely meant for institutional participants in real estate. We made that information available to the investors, lenders, advisory firms, what have you. Even and over time, obviously, this was a glaring sort of missing piece in the market. So it really picked up really quickly. And even global investors who were not part of the Indian ecosystem at that point, but were interested, needed something to look at sitting in their home countries, right? So it was the perfect product. So we started with commercial real estate, but over time, as we picked up experience, expertise in doing this, we picked up a lot of interest from companies and clients all around. We started expanding beyond commercial real estate. We went to warehousing, we went to mortgages, and we started expanding our suite of products. So now Propstack has now been around for almost a decade. And along the line, a couple of years back, we said, look, we've created this fantastic product for institutional users. Why can't we just do the same thing for consumers, right? Obviously, we have the expertise, so it was quite easy for us. And consumers are, by and large, more interested in residential real estate. So we created Zapkey as a pure B2C version of Propstack to begin with. And we made gave it easy access to customers looking to buy a home, lease a house, etc., etc. They shouldn't be stressed. They shouldn't be worried with unpredictability. They should know what they're paying for, what they're going to get for what they pay, and they should have something that they can rely on. So we basically made registration data available through Zapkey to the everyday consumer. Of course, going forward, Zapkey has a larger vision just beyond providing data. And maybe at another appropriate time, I can touch upon that as well.
Great, Shubhankar, congratulations on building such a great platform. I've been seeing your journey for a last couple of years, and I would say it's one of a very, very useful product for all the stakeholders in the CRE as well as now in residential market. So, Shubhankar, my next question to you is: what are the top trends that you are witnessing in the present day commercial real estate market?
Sure. Look, obviously we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is COVID, because that the last 24 months has changed everything that we've ever known all our lives, in all aspects of our lives, right? And that applies to the commercial real estate office occupancy sector as well. So up until COVID really hit the world in early 2020, until the end of 2019, we were observing really strong tailwinds on the for the sector, right? Absorption was touching record highs. The mood was very positive, and suddenly COVID hit and brought the world to a screeching halt and brought so much uncertainty to everybody, right? Now, different participants were hit differently. Different participants, different occupiers had a different perception of the uncertainty around what they would do, what business would be like. So the early days, what we noticed was that large corporate occupiers who have large office spaces, a big footprint in India, still had the muscle and financial strength to sit back and patiently observe how things are panning out and not take rash decisions with regard to their occupancy. So in the initial days, a lot didn't change over there. But what were really hit were the small businesses, not only domestic businesses, but even global, international businesses who had a small operation in India. Suddenly, business had come to a halt. They did not know, where it was going to go. And a lot of them, went into a shell. So very quickly, a lot of the domestic smaller businesses gave up their offices, tried to renegotiate. If the renegotiation didn't work out, they just give up their lease. And those kind of things started happening, right? As let's say we went past the first wave, a very interesting thing we started observing, at least, is the larger guys. Look, very interestingly, in the early 2000s, there was a concept of the hub and spoke model, right, where large IT companies came to India and very quickly realized that they don't need to spend all this money on large front offices and put everybody in it, right? They'll have a small front office where management would sit, and obviously the large back offices would be in affordable locations, either on the outskirts of a city or to cheaper cities, right? That's what happened. And very similarly, we saw that kind of paradigm shift after the first wave of COVID here as well. Only thing this time, the shift was that from hub and spoke, it kind of became hub and flex, because now everybody started taking a much larger employee first approach to their occupancy strategy. A lot of, most employees are already gone back to their hometowns, etc., etc. A lot of flexibility was given to work from home, but at the same time, that was not completely sustainable, right? You couldn't have businesses working perpetually from work from home. Yes, there were announcements by large tech giants and Wall Street also that, from today forever, we are going to be work from home. But that's that story, and we don't know how sustainable that is. Only time will tell. But definitely Indian businesses took a slightly blunted approach to that, saying, look, let's not go completely work from home. We have a great option here called flex. So, we can reduce our permanent office footprint because we don't need to commit our overheads to that. But we will invest in, flexible spaces where employees can come and go, where the terms are flexible, that, where maybe there's a second wave or a third wave. We don't want to be financially locked in to multi-year leases. So that is one big trend we observed, people taking a larger interest in flex spaces, right? At the same time, obviously, unrelated to flex, since a lot of the small front office started getting vacant, they also started getting cheaper. Capital values dropped, right? I mean, value dropped for a lot of business in general in the initial phases of COVID. So we also started observing a lot of local Indian businesses buying up offices, right? They said, look, for the first time in so many decades, we are seeing such great value, capital value in these small offices, like, say, erstwhile central business district of Bombay called Nariman Point, right? It's a typical hub for small office, front office, domestic businesses, trading houses. Let's go and buy out these offices. So that is another interesting trend we observed in the initial phases. Obviously, as we moved on now from first wave to second wave. Second wave was devastating. A lot more uncertainty came into the system. We are kind of at the end of wave number 3. The positivity around commercial real estate and office occupancy is back. It's tangible. You can see it. At the same time, when I say that, it doesn't seem like people are going to go back to complete 100% permanent fixed offices like it was before COVID. The hybrid model is, stuck. It's here to stay. Different versions of it are now going to sort of roll out over the next few years. And Flex is definitely going to be a big participant in office strategy going forward.
Completely, very insightful, Shubhankar, this one. Moving on to my next question. Do you think 2022 will be the turnaround year for CRE occupancy and absorption? And Where do you see it headed from here?
Look, I mean, it's very difficult always to make a flat out statement saying 2022 is going to be amazing and things of that sort. But obviously, we are in the data business, we're in the intelligence business, we're in the information business. So our job is to pick up cues from market sentiment, look at information, data, look at what has recently happened, and make a sort of intelligent judgment on what we can expect, right? I mean, for example, I mean, right now the outlook's looking good, right? And if you look at the three REITs that are listed in India, right? Um, I think the performance they've gone up 15 to 20%. They in the last quarter, they are holders of grade A office space, and that is basically, it's not just a financial indicator, it's an indicator of sentiment, right? It's basically saying that investors are saying, okay, boss, this is what we are seeing going forward. The outlook is positive, and we want to double down on our investment in the REIT. So they are a good indicator of what is to come, at least in the near future. Then, of course, you have institutional investors directly investing in real assets. I mean, there's news, I think, just very recently, today or yesterday, where GIC has picked up 3 million square feet in Bangalore for 2,800 crores. Once again, a huge indicator when a sovereign fund is taking a bet of that sort, directly investing in a real asset. It tells you that the sentiment is looking really good, right? Once again, and finally, let's say leasing activity in the last quarter of 2021, that was also up by about vicinity of 15-16%. So, and that is something that has happened on the ground, right? So definitely 2022 is showing good signs. And let's say, since you're from the space, we should definitely touch up on what's happening with Flex as well. And this will join into my point on your previous question, is the participation of Flex going forward, right? And you can clearly see it from pre-COVID, your annual, let's say it was just about 3-4%, where Flex had leased out of all the gross absorption that was happening. We're talking about 10% now, right? So it's clearly a good indicator of what's happening in the Flex space as well.
Yeah. So picking up your point on Flex, Shubhankar, while I'm from the industry, I'm very, very, biased around on the Flex space. But generally, from your view, what do you think will be the key factors affecting the Indian Flex space take up by large occupiers?
So look, there's definitely one very clear, should I say, insight over here is large occupiers, whether it is Flex, whether it is traditional office, right? Large occupiers are definitely, like I said before, are taking a much, much heavier employee first approach, right? Which basically means, complete focus on high quality offices, right? Grade A infrastructure, which basically mean either they look for that. And look, I mean, all these assets which are really top quality are generally already been pooled into the REITs that are already listed or that are going to be listed. Secondly, it's probably the domain of about a top dozen developers in India that can deliver that kind of space, right? So the point is either it's directly taking space for the developer if you're really committed to a permanent office, or going to a Flex operator that is sitting in these high quality assets. I think that is the number one trend that we are definitely picked up from the market going forward. Obviously, well, like I said, we are now in an era of hybrid spaces, and the attention has also gone towards employee density, right? So what we are also observing, I wouldn't say 100%, but definitely we're seeing trends where the amount of space that is in demand is not necessarily going down. It's probably very similar to what it was before. It's just that the employee density in these new spaces is going to be lesser, right? For all the obvious reasons, COVID related, health, etc., etc. And the remainder of the employees become part of the entire hybrid operation, right? Where part of it is work from home, part of it is coming to office, etc. And obviously, finally, um, one of the big reasons for the high interest in flex and the pickup in flex over the past 24 months is also the word flex, which is basically flexible terms, right? You don't necessarily have to go commit yourself financially and physically like you would traditionally, right? I'm talking about deposits. I'm talking about excellent plug and play options, right? Where, I mean, however large you are, you will always appreciate the flexibility of coming into an office where the infrastructure is top notch, grade A. You don't have to do anything, and you can leave, or you can downsize, or you can upsize completely depending on your strategy. I think that is one of the most important takeaways in terms of what large grade A occupiers are looking for and will go forward looking for.
So completely agree, Shubhankar. Great insights on that aspect. Very different kind of a question. What is Shubhankar Dongre passionate about outside of real estate?
It's actually it's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. It's also a very easy answer. I'm not very young anymore, but I am obsessed with football. I mean, I had my introduction to football in school, so I must have been, I don't know, what, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Right.
But that love has carried on until today, right? And completely into the sport. I mean, I'll watch pretty much every game I get the opportunity to, and lucky for me, I get to play twice a week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which is, again, I'd say very fortunate, because a lot of football related infrastructure also come up in a lot of cities in India, especially in Bombay, where a lot of these artificial turf
Right.
Because we don't necessarily, in a city like Bombay, there's not so much green space. So what you need to do, unfortunately, is you need to create your space. Now, we can't, probably our weather doesn't permit maintaining genuine real grass. So the next best is at least create open spaces where people can play sport. We were missing that. And I think it also, funnily, is having a knock-on effect on unused and unutilized real estate, right? Terraces, open lots, which generally are not being utilized for anything. So you might as well convert it into something healthy for the community. So I must say we are fortunate that we live in a time where we've got to see something like this and get to enjoy playing at this age too.
Great, perfect. So thanks, Shubhankar, for answering some of the biggest questions surrounding CRE's transformation in 2022. A big thank you to everybody for listening in. We'll be back again with another episode for more such illuminating conversations with top experts.
My pleasure, Sumit.